Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I want to show you detailed instructions on how you can get initial access to the ThunderDome network on Pwned. Now, if you've never heard of ThunderDome, ThunderDome is a red team multi-cloud network with 9 different flags spread across a real life, well, not real life, it simulates a real-life enterprise environment in the cloud. Now, in order to get to the top of ThunderDome, you need to compromise AWS, Azure, and GCP. And because I know cloud is new for a lot of people, and a lot of people may be stuck on just getting initial access into the environment, you begin with an external IP, and you have to figure out how to compromise the first environment. So in this video, I received permission from Pwned to give you guys detailed steps on how to do that. Now, I do want to be clear, if you're working through Pwned, we're not accepting walkthroughs or video walkthroughs right now. Instead, once all the flags have been found, then Pwned will let everybody know, hey, all the flags have been discovered. You are welcome now to make video walkthroughs, live stream, written walkthroughs. So when that time comes, I will do detailed walkthroughs on every single flag. But hey, I'm working through it myself. So I currently have 4 out of the 9 flags. So I'm not even done with it on my own. But I do want to show you guys the initial steps to get access. So let me share my screen. Here is ThunderDome. I can't scroll down anymore because you would see some spoilers on some of the flags I have, but you can see I'm about 35% through. Like I said, I have 4 of the flags, but here is what you will get with ThunderDome. Now, just to be clear, for those of you who don't know Pwned yet, Pwned is, think about Try Hack Me or Hack the Box, but for the cloud. So there's a bunch of both red team and blue team labs that cover AWS, Azure, and GCP. And what ThunderDome is ThunderDome is the first cyber range through Pwned. Now, to get access to ThunderDome, you do need to be an annual subscriber, which is going to cost you $200 a year. But hey, if you join the Hack Smarter Discord, which if you just go to hacksmarter.org, you'll find the Discord link. Once again, hacksmarter.org, you'll find the Discord link. But join the Hack Smarter Discord, send me a DM, and I will send you a discount code that will actually give you 15% off the annual subscription. But even outside of ThunderDome, the annual sub gives you access to other labs, but you can check out Pwned today, sign up for a free account, and you get access to over 30 completely free labs, and you can kind of see what the platform is like before you sign up for the money. But ThunderDome is limited to the annual subscribers. So when you get to the ThunderDome page, you can see our entry point, and it's going to give us this IP, but I want to guide you through all the way from the beginning. So in order to do ThunderDome, the first thing you need to do is get on the VPN, and it's a different VPN than the normal Pwned VPN. So it's this button right here. You'll just click Connect VPN. I've already done that, so we're going to do sudo open VPN. It's going to be your username. Mine is Tyler Ramsbey, and then thunderdome.ovpn, and that should get us on the VPN. And we'll just pop this open. We'll call this terminal and cd home Tyler, and we'll just drop into Pwned right there. So the first step is getting on the VPN, and then we are given this IP. And I also wanted to show you guys a good way to take notes as you're working through ThunderDome. The biggest thing to keep in mind is, like I shared already, ThunderDome is a pretty large red team multi-cloud environment. What that means is things you discover during the first flag will likely come into play in an upcoming flag, so you need to take good notes and treat this like an actual pen test. So I'm not going to show you my actual notes yet. When we do get to the point where we can release walkthroughs and I do my detailed video walkthrough, I'll even give you my full notes from Notion. But we're going to set up new notes just to give you an idea of a proper way to take notes as you work your way through Pwned. So I'm going to jump over here, and I will go to make a new page, and we will just call it ThunderDome. We'll make it full screen here, and then we will do full width. And then underneath ThunderDome, what I like to do is I'll make a page called credentials. So as we discover credentials, we'll keep all of our credentials organized, because like I said before, hey, something you find in one step might come into play in another step. And then we will also, or the way I'm doing it is I make a new tab for every flag as I work through the flags. And since I can't really look at the flag, well, I'm going to stop sharing my screen just for a moment. The reason I don't want to show you guys all my flags is once you discover one flag, it'll show the names of upcoming flags. And like I said before, I have 4 of the flags, and because of that, you can see 5 of the flag names, but don't want to spoil the challenge for anyone. So I just grabbed the name of the first flag, and we will drop the name. Emerge through the breach is the name of the first flag. Make that full screen, make our width full width. And now we can begin diving into things. So what I like to do in the beginning of each flag is we'll do like an H2, and we'll just call this our starting point. Each flag is going to have a starting point based on what you found in the previous flag. It might be credentials you're starting with, might be an IP, whatever it is, but we'll just drop in our starting point right there. And now with an IP like this, you want to approach it as like an external network pen test. We just have an IP. What can we do with that IP? I'm not going to go through all these steps. I do just want to teach you good methodology. A few things that you might want to do is run rust scan or nmap on the host, see what ports are open. If you do that, you're going to notice, I believe, 80, 443, and 22 for SSH, if my memory serves me correct, but doing that on the host. And because we know it's a web server, you want to do your traditional web server stuff. So we could say on the web server, let me get rid of this extra space. You want to do things like this. And you see me when I do a machine live, which I'll be doing later on in the stream. I make these steps every time I dive into a web server, but simple stuff, right? GoBuster for directories. You can also use GoBuster for vhosts. Use the website, like just as it's intended. Look for intended functionality. Check the source code, your basic enumeration stuff. And if you follow these steps, you're going to figure out that there's something interesting in the source code. So let me show that to you. Let's go ahead and grab our IP right here, and we will go to the page. So here we are. We define health. And if we're taking good notes, we also want to just take note of what we've seen so far. So if we go back here, we'll grab our screenshot tool, and I'll just take a quick screenshot of that. And I also want to take my notes out just so I can quickly tab through. But there it is. That's our web page that we are greeted with on our initial access. So we'll dive over to Massive Pharma. So we define health. We're dedicated to assisting individuals at every stage of their lives, adopting a strategy for care that encompasses preventive measures to diagnostics and treatment. And learn more just brings us back to this page. So nothing super interesting there. So pretty static website, not much that we can see. So when you're on a static website, really a few things that you want to check. One is, like I shared before, during your simple like GoBuster on directories, you're looking for vhosts. But one easy thing that we often miss is just checking the source. And I've missed this myself when I'm going through boxes live, which is why I think it's so important to make a to-do list. This is especially helpful for those of you who might be studying for the OSCP. It's easy to fall into rabbit holes and then forget the things that you were supposed to check. So what I do when I approach a machine or even an actual pen test is, if there's a web server available, I'll make a to-do list first before even looking at the web server while my mind is fresh and I'm not falling in any rabbit holes. And then when like this doesn't work, I just jump to the next thing on the list, jump to the next thing on the list, jump to the next thing on the list. That good methodology is what's going to really help you succeed as a pen tester or on exams, whatever you are approaching. So on here, if you went through our list, you would eventually get to the point where you look at the source code. Now that's always important when you're approaching a cloud, because often you will see information in the source code about maybe an S3 bucket that is loading images from, and you can see if that S3 bucket is world writable. But as we look through the source code, we'll be like, okay, anything interesting, and this should grab your attention right away. So we have a comment here that says bitbucket.org Massive Pharma MP website. So let's go ahead and go there. And here we are. We are on Bitbucket, which we can already tell this is a misconfiguration. We should not be able to access this right now, but we are here. So we have this, and we can look at commits. It's always a good idea. So we have our initial commits, which might not be too interesting, but let's just look at all of them. So we have our initial commit, which is just a get ignore file, so we can ignore that ourselves. And then we have our index.html. And that's basically what we've been looking at, that initial commit to the website. But we have this commit right here by H. Sato, and he is the one who added this comment, deployed from bitbucket.org Massive Pharma MP website. The one thing to check when you have access to Bitbucket or any similar website for handling gets and commits is you can go up here and click View Raw Commit. And from here, we have some email enumeration. We have Haru at massivepharma.com. So we have some username information. Let's go ahead and grab a screenshot of that for our notes. So we'll just go like this, get the full URL up there. And I like to highlight, this is what we're pointing at. So we have this email enumeration right there. Nothing crazy we can do with it yet, but might come into play later on as we work our way through this machine. So we'll do email enumeration. So we have Haru at massivepharma.com. And I know I'm totally missing chat. Let me check out chat, make sure I'm not missing anything here. John Lowe said, vibe check passed. Hey, appreciate it, my friend. Hiddlestone said, can you show the certificate when finishing ThunderDome? No, I can't, because I don't actually know what that looks like myself. If I get that, I will be sure to showcase that to you. Evening, everyone. Would it be good to check stuff like the network tab? Not necessarily helpful on a web app. Doc G Money said, wow, I get to catch you live. Your videos this last week have helped me a ton with Pen 200 stuff. Hey, dude, thank you, and good luck on the OSCP. And looking over at Twitch, well done on getting that far. Didn't even consider looking at raw content from Git commits. Awesome tip. Yeah, hey, something just to keep in mind, because you can see some of that email enumeration. You could also pull the Git down and do it that way, but using the GUI is just a little more accessible for people. All right, let's dive back into it and see what other information we can find. So we have Massive Pharma right here, and we have this website project. But one thing you should always check is, okay, we have a project called website. What if we just jump back out to Massive Pharma? And when you do that, you notice, okay, we have our MP website, which we have that very minor email enumeration on, but nothing else that's super interesting. But we also have Trial Data Management POC. So that's interesting. That should draw our attention, like what is going on here? And there's a lot going on here. Easy to fall into rabbit holes. So just to be clear, I did. When I was going through this myself, I spent way too much time looking through here, kind of falling into rabbit holes, trying to understand Open EMR. It is a real open source electronic health records. Maybe I should just go like get a CVE real quick out of it, throw another CV at them. But one quick way that you can look at what might be interesting is, instead of looking at every single file, we can see most of these come from the initial commit. We want to see, hey, what commits have been done to these files? So let's look at this. We have our initial commit, but we have our HSATU person, again, Haru, who we have his email. He made an update here. So what update did he make? Let's check it out. So he put a data uploader.php, which has spots for an AWS key and an AWS secret, but it doesn't give us any information right here that would be helpful to us. So just interesting to note, but that's not going to help us get in. The other information we see is we have some type of bucket name here, so that might be helpful. But let's keep on going, because we have another commit here called bucket name change. So maybe this is the legit bucket. So we see two changes that are made to this commit. We have, I'll try to scroll in for those of you watching, we have an access key being committed, which an access key in and of itself is not necessarily sensitive. You can't breach an account with just an access key, but there is some stuff you can do with an access key for enumeration. And we also have a bucket name update. So we have an S3 bucket that might come into play later. Like I said before, big hint, if I was a teacher, I remember teachers always used to say this might be on the test. I'm just gonna give you guys a huge hint. As you work your way through this bucket might come up in the very near future. So you want to take note of all the things you find. Let's go ahead and grab a screenshot of this information. So we have our key right here, and we have our bucket name, right? So we'll grab that, and we will jump over to our notes, and we'll just call this access key and bucket name. I'll grab the screenshot there. It's always good to include the full screenshot. So, and I'll do it right here as well. Access key, and we'll add it there. And bucket name. I don't feel like typing that out from up there, so I'm just going to copy this. Here's our access key ID. Oh, let's do that. And our bucket name. Let's grab our bucket name right here. All right. So let's just review some of the information that we have so far. We know that we have a web server running here, And by looking at the source code of the web server, I should have grabbed a screenshot of that. I would encourage you to do that if you're taking your own notes. But in the source code, we found a link to the Bitbucket where the website was posted from. Looking at the commits in the Bitbucket, we have some email enumeration when we look at the raw commit of Haru at massivepharma.com. And then we found another project, that POC project, and we found a commit here that adds an access key and a bucket name. Now, none of this information is super sensitive right now, but one thing to always check when you find an S3 bucket is to see if you can anonymously list the data that's in that S3 bucket. So just to show good methodology, let's do that. We'll open up our terminal here, and we can do AWS S3 LS S3 like that. I know the syntax is confusing, but here's what's going on. We're using the AWS CLI. We want to do an S3 command. LS, if you think about Linux, is list. And now we're just saying, hey, here's the S3 bucket we want to list. And we want to see if we can do it anonymously. So we'll do no sign request like that. And you can see it fails. So we can say, hey, we can't actually list the bucket. And we can make that as a note here. We'll do, go back up here, bro. Bucket is not world listable. And we can just add that as code down there. I want to make sure my code is bash. Beautiful. So we just have that in our notes. We did try to list the bucket. We can't do it now. But once again, major hint as you work through this, keep this bucket in mind as you get greater access to see if you can come back to it. But you also have this access key. So an access key, if you're new to AWS, in order to authenticate to AWS on the CLI, so if we do something like this, AWS configure profile ThunderDome, it's going to access for an access key ID. That's the information that we would put in there. That's kind of like our username. And usernames aren't totally sensitive in and of themselves, but if you have one, you might be able to guess a password. What's really sensitive, and you can tell by the name, is the secret access key. An access key ID with the secret access key would allow us to get full authentication to the AWS environment on the CLI. That's kind of like a username and a password. Of course, this isn't going to work because all my information there is fake. So we can't authenticate with that access key ID, but there are some things you can do. Specifically, you can use the AWS CLI to get the account ID from an access key. All right. So once again, if you have an access key, you can use the AWS CLI to get the underlying AWS account ID that might give us access to the console, the login, if we can find credentials. Now, if you don't know how to do that, let me just show you how you figure these things out. We'll just do something like get account ID from access key AWS. All right, Google's your friend. We have the AWS documentation right here, and it says get access key info, and then we just pass it the access key. So let's go ahead and try that. We'll see if there's anything else interesting here. So I think it is just AWS get access key info, access key, and we will grab it from our notes. Oh, here's our notes here. Oh, do I need to do IAM? I think I need to do IAM. Try this again, maybe. Nope, see, I don't even know the freaking syntax. Did I miss it here? Oh, STS, my bad. STS, that's what we're looking for. I always mess up AWS syntax because to me it's overly confusing. There we go. So it's AWS STS get access key info. Let me show you what I missed just because I wasn't clear. We have this get access key info. It's this STS right there. So it's AWS STS get access key info. And then we pass it our access key ID, which is what we did. So that provides us with the AWS account ID. So let's go ahead and grab that. That will come into play later, which I'll show you. And I need to just stay on this page. And we'll say... There we go. So we have the account ID there. But with that, there's still not a whole lot that we can do. Now, we could technically access the AWS console if we knew a password. So if we do AWS console login, I need to make sure I'm not actually logged into an AWS console for ThunderDome real quick. I'll go back to share my screen in a moment. Okay, no, I'm not. So you can see to log in as an IM user, we need the account ID, we need the username, and we need the password. Now let's just put together some of the information we have up to this point. We have our account ID. So let's grab the account ID right here. All right, and an IM username. Well, that's often the email. And remember, we had this email enumeration of Haru at massivepharma.com. So let's grab that information. And we have our, oh, apparently that didn't copy. Do I have to right click? Bro, let me try this again. Highlight, Control C. There we go. So we have the account ID, we have the username, but the one thing that we are missing is the password. So let's go back to our enumeration and see if we can find any password information as we look at these commits. So we already looked at this one. We looked at this one, bucket name change. We saw Nina made an update. What update did Nina make? Okay, so Nina removed the access key like, yo, Haru, what are you doing, bro? We don't want to be having the access key here just in plain text because someone might be able to get our account ID from it. So her commit actually removes the access key ID. And we have one more commit from Haru again. A different Haru account, it would appear, but Haru again. And what do we have here? So we have this change made here. Interesting. So we have Haru using to a database using the password treatment. And it's from our same Haru account. And now consider the real world. Many times, I was going to throw out a statistic, but I don't know one, so I'd be making it up. But often people reuse their passwords. I see this in the real world all the time. When a password is being used in one place by a user, it's likely it's being used in other places. So even when I'm doing an actual pen test, especially an internal pen test is where I discovered this. On an internal pen test, I might see a spot where a user is using a password, and I'll try to use that password. I'll give you a really clear example. Let's say I'm able to breach a web app and I gain access to a user's password on the web app. I can then often gain access to the Active Directory environment with that same password due to password reuse. So we do see a password here. Let's go ahead and grab this for our screenshot, or for our notes rather. Leave that right there. And we will jump back over to here. And I hate that Notion aligns to the center by default. I don't think you can really change that. So we have a possible password here of treatment exclamation mark. Let's see if that works to give us initial access to the ThunderDome environment. So we'll do treatment exclamation mark. Sign in. Boom. And we are in. We can jump over to our AWS console, and we now have access to the Massive Pharma AWS account as Haru. Now, I'm not going to show you how to get the flag, but you're very close to the flag from here. From here, you need to do some basic AWS enumeration with the account that you have, and you will be able to find the flag as well as find what you need to move on to the next step and to gain deeper access into the environment. So, hey, hope you found this helpful. Do want to show you the alternative way. So this is one way. If you find the password in the commit right here, treatment exclamation mark, you'll be able to use that password to get access to the AWS environment. The other thing you could do is if you just use Python to scrape the web page, you'll notice that we have that password being used here, which is another common thing that you will stumble across. When you have a company, a lot of people will use keywords from the company, whether it's the company's name with an exclamation mark on the end, or the year, or the season, and they'll use that as their password. So we see Haru using the password. You can either find it in the commit here, or you could have guessed it. Okay, looking at here, we have treatment exclamation mark. Maybe we can try these different things for passwords. I do just want to say, when it comes to this though, you generally can't brute force an account in the cloud. All the major cloud providers have strict rate limiting built up, so you couldn't spray Haru's account with a bunch of different passwords. AWS would rate limit you and it would be unsuccessful. So you have to, when it comes to AWS or Azure or GCP, have a more targeted approach to the way that you do passwords. You can password spray, same password against multiple accounts, but you generally can't try to brute force a password of a single account. That will not work for you due to rate limiting in place. But that, my friends, is how you get initial access to the ThunderDome Red Team multi-cloud environment on Pwned Labs. So if you were stuck, I hope this gives you that extra motivation. Hey, dig in. You have access to the AWS account now. See if you can find that first flag. See if you can find what you need for the next step. And as always, my DMs on Discord are open. I shared before, I'm working through it live as well. I have the first 4 flags. So if you just need a sanity check as you work through those couple of flags, feel free to DM me on Discord. Would love to be the person to help you out with that. Once all these flags are found, we will also do a video series where I walk through this entire environment step by step, showing you how to compromise each part and get each flag. So hey, thank you for watching. Hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you in the next one.